Coach. How you doing?
Good. How are you, Justin?
Good. Ready, Sean? You okay, Coach?
Yeah. First of all, I'd just like to, thank all the fans that came out for the season opener, and I think I put something out there on Twitter, but I just wanted to verbalize that. I preach a lot of gratitude in our program, and very gracious for all those fans that backed us through all the turmoil and where we're at right now. And it was a special evening for me. There's a lot of anxiety and a lot of build-up to that day one and that first official game. But the great sense of relief as a coach when you finally get that first win, that was special. And I had a lot of family in town, and so to all those fans that came out and supported us on game one, and all the students and the maniacs and everybody's involved, the administration, players, thank you. That meant a lot to me. So, but glad it's over. Glad it's over. Game one's in the books, and got that monkey off our back in terms of getting to game one. So now we move on to game two, and it's certainly going to be another challenge, especially with a shorthanded roster. So Monmouth's a good team. King Rice, we've seen him a couple times there in his tenure with Monmouth. Saw him in 2018, saw him in 2014 for opener. So they got a scrappy bunch. They got a bunch that wants to get up in you and take things away and really try to create havoc and turnovers. And they got a couple guys between Jack Collins and Xander Rice that are putting up a lot of shots that can really score it. So we got another challenge on our hands, and trying to do everything we can to help our legs, and we've played a lot of minutes, and a lot of guys played a lot of minutes that typically don't play that many minutes. So we've been really mindful of that, playing 3 games in 8 days with a short bench, and trying to do as much as we can, learning on film, and getting prepared to take on that challenge on Friday night.
Coach, after seeing the film of game one, what was the final evaluation there, things that you saw?
Offensively, I was worried there. We shot 14% in the first half, and everybody thought I had some profound words of wisdom at halftime, and more than anything, I was just, had a heart-to-heart with them and said, guys, it can't get any worse than this in terms of, the way we shot it. And we talked a lot about trust and trust in the process, trust in the system, trust in each other. And, they didn't get a lot of reps, that first group together. And so, I understand that there probably was some trust issues and people being in the right spot. But I think we cleaned a lot of that up on film. And once we started doing the little things and being in the right spacing in the second half, it didn't take much to where we really turned it offensively. And coming out of the gate, I think that the first play out of the gate was probably our most executed play of the night, and it came down to one really good screen. And I told those guys yesterday, one of the most underrated parts of the game of basketball is a good, solid screen, and that got Seth open by setting a good, solid screen, and he stepped out and made a shot.
You mentioned the shortened depth, obviously you know that, and you've talked about this before, but do you have to adjust practice even and keep their legs?
Yeah, I got to read the room in a lot of ways. Yesterday we had a couple things, on our starting five that were bothering guys, just nagging injuries, that nothing you can't play through, but it's going to certainly affect your performance if you don't, take care of them the right way. So, I've been more mindful about not getting up and down as much, and we spent a lot more time in the film room, and the film room is a great teaching tool. So we tried to do as much as that as we could, not only self-scouting our game and putting Missouri State to bed, and trying to fix all that we can fix, by watching that film, but also moving into our next opponent with Monmouth and getting prepared for them as well.
Josh, who helps you with subs? It looked like you were, particularly with Jesse and Kobe, before media timeouts, you were getting them out to get them a little extra rest. How do you work that?
We talked about, I have a lot of trust and faith in our staff, and those guys talk collectively. And I found out as a head coach, you can't control as much as you think you can control. So if you try to, you're probably going to do a bad job of in some form or fashion. So the more we have communication prior to and a game plan prior to, and we're all on the same page, I totally trust those guys in making the rotations substitution-wise, without me having to, put all that much energy and thought into it in game. So we talk about it. We have a game plan. Doesn't mean the game plan always happens the way you anticipate it to, but I certainly have a lot of faith in my assistants to make those decisions.
It looked like you were mindful, though, before media timeouts to try to maybe steal an extra minute.
Yeah, that was part of the strategy. I mean, if you can get a dead ball, whether it be 30, 40 seconds before a media timeout, why not get that extra rest when you do that? No. There was a couple of instances where we had some sets and some plays, in place that I probably wouldn't have run had there been some, certain guys on the floor that came in after the fact that kind of ruined a couple of sets. And a lot of it comes down to communication. And we talked a lot in the last couple of days about doing a lot better job of communication, coming out of timeouts to where if there is somebody coming in, we got to have those player huddles and everybody's on the same page, because those are just as important, those player huddles, as they are, with the coach during a media timeout, for instance.
One other thing, there's a zone part of that function too. I know you use it as a change up or maybe, but to help you with your guys with their legs, the zone.
Yeah, we had to.
Yeah.
We had to try to maintain fresh legs, but we also did to change the game of some sort too. And sometimes when you're chasing guys all over defensively, you don't have nearly the offensive production either. So I think I might have got a little too creative there late in the game to where I thought we were all on the same page. I found out different. So there's some guys open that, I thought maybe we could stretch that to a 12, 15-point lead and smooth sailing out the end. But we made some mistakes defensively, and especially with communication and knowing what we were in.
Need all five playing zone, right?
It helps. Certainly helps when we're all on the same page.
What did you learn from the first game that you didn't know or suspected but weren't sure of?
That's a good question. There's some things I was pleasantly surprised with. I thought the game was called really well. I mean, I thought Jesse did an excellent job of staying out of foul trouble. He's starting to surprise me a lot better with what he can do on the perimeter in terms of guarding. I know, the thing with Kobe and Seth and those guys that played limited minutes off the bench over the years, I think there's a learning curve in terms of playing that many minutes and coming right out of the gate and being productive. I had my suspicions that, they were going to sag back on Jesse and double-team Jesse, and I think that's going to happen all year. But I didn't know they were just going to invite some of our guards to just beat them and shoot us out of it, out of their defense. So I mean, we got to be probably more prepared for that. Guys are going to just invite certain guys to beat you on the perimeter, and they don't want to get picked apart down low. But like I told our guys, I mean, Jesse Edwards is special. He's in a lot of ways, he's our bread and butter. So the more touches we can get him, the better off everybody's going to be, from an offensive production standpoint. And Jesse's going to make good decisions with the ball. And if he's doubled, he's going to pass out of it. And if we make the right cuts and rotations and fill behinds, we're going to get great shots.
Josh, learning from film, maybe easier later in the year, right, when you're short prep and you know more about your own team.
Yeah,
How much trickier is in the start of the year?
It is trickier. We are in a stretch of 3 games in 8 days, and with a short bench, you gotta make sure you keep these things in mind and figure these things out, and hopefully we get a little more added depth in the coming weeks. hopefully we get some good news there. But right now we got to do with, control the variables we can control. So 3 games in 8 days, you try to keep fresh legs with a short bench and use the learning tools that you have, and that's film.
One game, the exhibition, the scrimmage, are you using all of it? Like, how much can you actually show them?
Say that again.
How much can you show them? Are you using the exhibition, the scrimmage, and the game? Are you doing just Monday's game? Are you doing practice?
We pretty much put the exhibition to bed. Now we've really dissected the Missouri State film. So, things that you thought you had corrected, and like, man, we did a really good job here, and that something might rear its ugly head in a different area, and so something that we really preached on after the George Mason exhibition game. Well, we preached on some different things, after the Missouri State. So you never know, game in and game out, what you're going to have to correct. So we just keep on trying to correct the mistakes we're making and trying to be way more efficient.
Coach, when you're, not to compare errors or anything, but to kind of get a clear picture of what you talk about, what defenses do with Jesse, is it similar to the same problems that you guys faced a few years ago with Oscar and Derek? Guys would, dump down on them, and all of a sudden, Sean had to make shots, and Taz, and for a while, sometimes the shots went in, sometimes it did. But is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yeah, and I think if you make comparisons there, I think Jesse's a way more willing and able passer out of the post. Yeah. So it will be harder for those teams to double. We just got to be in the correct spacing in terms of taking advantage of step-in shots, because we will get step-in shots if we're patient in the double team. We make the right reads, we make the right cuts off the ball, we make the right, we fill in behind with shooters. So and we make the extra pass, because teams are really good with one rotation. Now the second and third rotations, when college basketball becomes really hard in terms of ball movement, in terms of making those rotations.
It's just a matter of you got to knock those shots down.
Yeah,
Then
it comes down to making shots, making open shots, and we all know that step-in shots are way easier to make than shots off the bounce or shots that we try to create one-on-one. So. I think we only had 2 assists on 4 field goals in that first half, and I think that had a lot to do with people who were trying to do too much. And I think what I talked about in the post-game presser, I don't want to use the word selfish, because I don't think our guys are selfish by any means, but when they see spacing break down and structure break down and people aren't in the right spot, I think people are more likely, and guys are more likely to try to, create off the bounce to make something happen that really isn't there.
Question, Acook and Raekwon, any news there on either?
No, I don't have anything new to report. Just keep crossing my fingers and thinking positive thoughts. And thought maybe I'd hear yesterday or today on Raekwon, but my understanding is they meet on Tuesdays. But I thought maybe since it was election day on Tuesday, maybe it was one day delayed. But I put a lot of thought in these things and probably overthink them, when I should just control what I can control and move on. Nothing new on Acook. Just things are certainly trending in a positive direction. If I can speak from a general side of things, that everything seems to be trending positively, and which is great for him and his health, which is something we can all put a smile on our face for.
Can you get on the floor, do anything, or is he totally?
No, that's all in the medical hands, and we're being as precautious as possible with him to make sure he's in a good place.
We talked plenty about Ofri after the game, but the other 2 bench guys, Pat and Jeremiah, just your results so far for them?
Those guys need more reps. We haven't had a great opportunity to get them as many reps as we would like. There's a couple of really good plays that Pat gave us in the second half that we can, like I told him after the game, gave him hugs, man, we can build on this. We need to get Pat to where he's very comfortable being out on the floor and plays with just great instinct. And I think sometimes Pat thinks the game a little too hard when he's one of the strongest, most athletic guys on the floor in a lot of ways. And if I can get him to just get that mentality of like nobody's stopping me, I'm going to go get this offensive rebound, he could be a huge asset to our program. And JB, I mean, I gave the guys, we have a goal for our team for every game in terms of keeping turnovers to 9 and under. And we held that team, a good defensive Missouri State team. We only committed 7 turnovers. So that's with Kobe Johnson and which has played limited point guard, and Jeremiah Bembry as a freshman. They never played a bounce of college basketball until the other night. So kudos to those guys, and that was a pleasant surprise. We really took care of the ball against a good defensive team.
Back to Mike's question about prep. The first game, you really had very little to go on. It was mostly ghosts. This game, you got a lot to go on because you played them and they played them. Was that by design or did it just happen that way?
No, sometimes it just happens that way. It's nice to have that comparable. When you watch film, especially when you're looking at guys' size and athleticism, and it's when you have something to compare it to, and you just saw George Mason play in person, and you know what guys are capable of. It makes it a lot easier to make those judgments and those comparisons between, especially in terms of personnel. You can certainly see what they do from a structure standpoint on film easily, but when you make those strength comparisons, those speed comparisons, and, can he go by this guy? Because we see our guys every single day, what they can do against, like when they went against George Mason, for example, and then I can compare that with what Monmouth guys did against George Mason. So, but yeah, it's helpful. It's helpful to have some film to go off of. Missouri State, we didn't have any. So
stepping back to that, did you felt like you had everything covered now that you look back on what you prepared for Missouri State?
For the most part, I thought we did a pretty good job defensively. They had a hard time scoring as well. Certainly, they made shots in the second half when we, like I said, might have got a little too cute with my changes of defense that probably created some opportunities for them to get some really good shots. But credit to them, they made them there in the second half. But they also had their struggles to score in the first half. And when you shoot 14% in the first half, 4 for 32, and you're only down 6, that's a win.
You anticipate more pressure from Monmouth on Friday?
I didn't see any of that pressure. It doesn't mean that they don't see the fact that we got some backup guards, but I thought for the most part, we took care of pressure. We didn't exactly execute perfectly, but we didn't have any turnovers in the backcourt, trying to get it up against their pressure that they threw at us.
I guess having taller wings helps. You can either throw over it or handle it. It doesn't have to be the point guard that deals with pressure.
Yeah, and then when you got a four-man like Quinn with all that experience and a veteran like he can handle it and he can make good decisions. He can always flash up there and catch. So that's always helpful for a coach to have a forward that is mobile like Quinn and can make those good decisions.
Standard for block charge this year. If officials call it the right way. So how do you teach your kids? Do you think it's a big deal or not?
Yeah, it's a big deal. We got to adapt. We got to adapt to the way they're calling it. Now, I think I had this conversation with you guys a couple times in terms of the primary and secondary defender. We didn't get any of those calls, I believe, in the George Mason exhibition game in terms of the primary defender. If you're in legal guarding position, you have that right to that space. Now, we got one of those calls with Jesse, primary defender. Jesse did take a charge. So I guess that was probably our first and only charge we've taken so far this year. But I think what's going to happen is we're finally now getting to the separation in the rule. Not necessarily is it automatically a block every time. So, yeah, it might be, pretty much an automatic for a lot of those officials and in terms of the secondary defender and the help side defender in terms of block charge. But the primary defender is 100% entitled to his space. If he beats him to the spot, that's his space.
I mean, not you secondary guy just can't even try to take a charge.
You spend a lot of time walling up. It's all A to A in terms of your verticality. So wall up, get as big as possible, and make them come through your chest and score through you. And all that collision happens in the air, and that's kind of the way they want the game to be played.
The players that are having to do more in terms of role and minutes, how are they dealing with that? Are they embracing the opportunity? Are they excited about it? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, some of them don't show enough excitement in anything in their life, and I tell them you might want to smile once in a while. And I kept on hearing that the 2 days prior to it. Enjoy the moment, smile. Like, it's not easy to do. It's not easy to do. It's a lot easier to do after the game, for sure. So some of it's just their personality, and every time I see Kobe smile, I point it out because it doesn't happen very often. But yeah, I think they're embracing it. It's a opportunity that, doesn't always come in life, So when it does, I just keep on telling them, be ready to take advantage of that opportunity. And I don't think they're by any means, scared of the moment by any means, but they can certainly be more aggressive with it. So,
I'm hardly an expert on a basketball playbook, but we heard that, especially when you had Kerr available, that pick and roll was going to be a big part of your offense. And I don't remember seeing very much of it in the game. And even when you were shooting, 14%, I was just wondering, were you holding on that? Was that because of Kerr not being in there? Was
yeah, I mean, Kerr and Kobe are two different point guards in a lot of ways. So, I mean, the way you call the game from a strategy standpoint is going to be a little different with the two different point guards. Yeah, Kerr is really, really effective off a ball screen, and he can make really good reads. Kobe's more of a steady handling guy that can just get the ball in the right place and make sure you're into offense. Is he good off pick and roll? I want him to be a little more aggressive coming off pick and roll and take advantage of these new rules. I mean, Kobe's got a really good athletic frame, and he can come downhill. He can come downhill and put a lot of pressure on the rim and go at these guards and finish through them and take advantage of that new block charge rule. And that's what I'm trying to get at with his mindset. If we can get him more aggressive coming downhill off those pick and rolls, and he's got good vision too, and he's going to get the ball in the right place. I mean, but they're different. They're 100% different, and you got to, from a coaching standpoint, you got to definitely keep that in mind.
Kind of along those lines, about them being different, you could probably post Kobe up.
Yeah.
And you're not probably posting Kerr up.
And if you go back and look at the film, the first set I ran was trying to take advantage of Kobe's size in the post. So I ran him off a smash screen and ran him right into the post, and we just didn't make the pass. He was open. And Seth chose not to force it, and we moved on with the set. But that was option number one coming out of the gate, was trying to get Kobe going. And I thought I had a mismatch there that we could put him in the post and score with a smaller guard on him.
Josh, how much are you calling? Just so used to seeing offense, which is motion, which is really not a lot of plays, right? Just kind of reading and feeling, but it sounds like you're calling a lot of stuff. Yeah,
I want them to. And my whole idea was to be free-flowing in terms of their transition, their early offense. And I believe kind of what happened in a lot of ways, and we got just so tired because we're playing so many minutes, so we kind of abandoned, our bread and butter, which is getting out, filling corners, creating space. And that's something we really harped on in the film. It's just, let's do the things that, we're really good at. And just because, we're tired doesn't mean we take plays off. One guy takes a play off and he's in the wrong position, it can throw everything off. And, we have a lot of sets and we have some structure that we go to when the set breaks down. I think we only got into it like 4 times from my understanding. And a lot of that has to do with, people being not in the right spot or in the right positioning. And so when players feel that, they feel a need to, bounce it and create when they probably shouldn't be.
Calculated guess, just when you call a set, just from your experiences as a coach, how often are they successful? When you call a play, everybody does everything right.
You know, the crazy thing is, it's usually the you know what works well for the right combinations. And that's why I was talking about earlier, is like